Hi, everybody. Leslie M. Thornton, Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss. We are on a podcast marathon today. I'm getting to interview such amazing human beings, clients, and other business owners. And now we have Lane Bruner here with us, who is in Austin, Texas, which I just recently went to and loved, by the way.
It's amazing.
So have you always lived there?
No, I grew up in the DC area. I got to Austin after college.
All right, cool. Well, that's probably a fun story as well, but cool. And super excited to have Lane here. Lane and I met each other in one of our business kind of mastermind experiences, and just was always blown away by your presence and who you are and your story, which I can't wait for you to get to share with our clients today. So let's just dive right into it. Before I do that, I am going to just read Lane's bio and go from there. So Lane Bruner is the founder of Wealthy Soul, uses her positive energy and authenticity to inspire, motivate, and teach others how to create incredible lives full of health and joy forever. After 20 plus years of dancing and performing in college and professionally, Lane battled against insecurity and self-doubt coupled with disordered eating. Abusing exercise and restricting calories were some of Lane's favorite ways to control her weight and look good in her costume. It was a long cycle of abuse that she finally broke free from with therapy, prayer, and consistent soul work. Today, Lane uses that experience combined with years of training in nutrition and fitness education to help people heal from lifestyle diseases so they can live longer with more mobility, vitality, and fewer prescription drugs. Today, Lane lives in Austin, Texas with her husband, 2 children, and their dog Trooper. She spends her days health coaching clients, teaching fitness classes, and hanging out with her husband and the boys at the baseball fields or on the trail systems in Austin. Very cool, living a very full life. And I think it gives us a lot of background to be able to share about how Lane became who she is today. So yeah, if we could focus in on, so many of my clients, Lane, have come from backgrounds where, whether it's, a job like they're in marketing, and it's like, if you're in marketing, then naturally like image matters and you need to care about what other people think. Or like your story, if you're a performer or a dancer, and like how much emphasis there is on how you need to look and the way, whatever, it's like that matters. And then having it lead up into, yes, there being these disordered kind of eating things that happen as the result and ways of seeing yourself and your body. So let's rewind back there if you're okay with that, and just kind of give us like, what was that time like for you when you were experiencing all that, maybe from your dancing days until the disordered eating?
So I'll share with you, which we're going to go to this part of my story, I think later on. I was born with 2 holes in my heart and had open heart surgery when I was 4 months old, 14 months old, and 8 years old. And so my mom wanted me to be able to be athletic and move my body. And the doctors agreed that dance was a good way for me to do that in small increments of time, right? So a song is 3.5 minutes, and that would be the amount of cardiac output that I could do. Then I could go to the side and I could rest and then come back and do it again. So it made sense, and everybody was happy with me dancing. So the intention of going, and it's my passion, still is today. Like, it is absolutely what lights me up. However, once you get to 13, ish, and you start to have, boobs and a butt, they take you out of ballet and say, that may not be the right fit for you. We may want to try you in modern dance or in hip hop or in jazz, taking you out of that idyllic body style that we all think of when we think about ballerinas, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely.
So then that triggers your brain to say, wait, the way that I look isn't acceptable to the people who I look up to in this industry.
Yes.
So what do? You stop eating all the foods and you try to look better in your costume, because as a dancer, and I'm 42 now, so this is, think back a number of years. As a dancer, you're valued by how you look and how you dance. Those are your 2 variables. That's your value. And so I had to be good at both of those things to be important. And I would say it really started about that age, kind of when I was moving into puberty.
Yeah. And I love the way you're communicating that. Like, it really is that simple. How you look and how you dance. Like, they're not seeing Lane, they're seeing Lane as that. Like, wow, really, really interesting. And yeah, I was definitely wanting to touch on your story about with your heart stuff and all of that. And I had no idea that that was how it started, with your being born that way. And then dance was what was chosen as like the way. Your mom probably had such good intentions to like, how can we make sure that we keep her heart in utmost, perfect condition or whatever, to put you in dance for that. And then it also still, wow, kept carrying on.
I will tell you that there is a level of, oh, you have a scar on your chest, and you can probably see it a little bit even now. It's like, oh, you have a scar on your chest. Now you look different from the other girls in that costume. And so that was already kind of foundational for me.
Got it.
That was
like, there's something wrong with me. Yes, I'm a little bit defected just from birth. Like, that's just the story that gets ingrained. How could it not?
That's the story.
Absolutely. And then we start to try harder to fit in. And like, of course, as soon as like, it sounds like your worst case scenario to your subconscious was to be seen as different and can't make it, or like whatever, fit into her costume / whatever. And it's like, oh no, that's not going to happen. And then there goes Lane stopping eating a bunch of stuff. And so what were you doing when the disordered eating started?
It actually manifested at where I was truly aware of it, when I was in college. And then, because I danced for NCAA, I was an athlete in college, and danced for my university for 4 years, which was an amazing experience. Yeah. So there's two pieces to this, right? There's the joy of me being able to perform and like the true passion and love of that. And then there's the other side of, the trauma that exists within that experience. And it manifested when I was in college, when we were all taking pills to be skinny. And it was like, you would take, supplements and pills to not be hungry. And I don't know if that was so much a product of dance, though. I remember I also danced. I had a scholarship for the modern department at my university. And I remember being in the dance studio, taking these pills and throwing up because it was so hard on my system.
Wow.
I was never bulimic. That was never my path. It was more about restriction. But it manifested in college. And then after I graduated from college, I knew I wanted to dance professionally, and I wanted to be a professional cheerleader. And that road was really, really more focused, even more on the physical aspect of how you look. They're really looking for models who can also dance, not necessarily dancers or cheerleaders. And, that was the time, I'd say, in my I graduated college at 21 to 26, 27, that I was at my worst when I was dancing professionally.
Got it. Okay. And when you say at your worst, like, what did that look like?
Like, I'm 135 to 140 pounds today. I'm 5'5". I'm very muscular. I was 114 pounds when I was 25, 26. So I was sick.
100%. I was just talking to somebody about this recently around that, like, when does it become a problem, right? Because it's like you were saying, the one aspect, like, I'm so passionate, right? I'm willing to do whatever it takes to just like be the best performer. And like, I'm around all these other girls, we're all doing the same thing. Like, there's like, right. And it's just like, I remember when I went to my school therapist in college, I went a couple times during college. And the first time I went, I had like kind of offhandedly, like, she's like, oh, are you exercising? I was like, oh yeah, I'm like addicted to exercise. I can't stop going. If I miss a day, it's like, and she was like, well, that can be a problem. And I was like, oh no, it's not a problem at all. Like, it's just like, that was just like, right. And it was just like, okay, like having to accept that at that time, like, I didn't see it as that. Like, it was just like, this is what's happening. But I'll never forget that she said that to me. Like, she was like, well, that can be a problem. And then by my senior year, I went back for my food body weight thing, because I had just studied abroad in Mexico. I gained 30 pounds in like 4 or 3 months or something like that. Because I was eating all the tacos
that happened.
That happened. I can never imagine. Yes, Mexico.
Yep. Spain for me.
Right. Yeah. The travel, it was just like, yep. When you've been restricting your whole life and you get a little bit of like taste of a different culture, and like, oh, mom and dad aren't around to judge me, or like my family to watch the way that I'm eating. Oh, all the things. Yes, the cervezas in Mexico. So I was fat and happy, for a while until 6 months later, I'm back in American culture and I'm like, crap, like there I am in my jeans again. I'm bigger than I've ever been and I can't do another diet again. And that's when I went back and took myself to the therapist because I was just at the end of my rope. And I said, hey, remember 2 years ago when I was here, I was like, and you mentioned about the exercise addiction actually probably being something that may not be too good. I was like, yeah, I'm ready to look at that now. Like, it's not good. Like, I do have an issue. And she was like, there was a candy bowl that was in her office, like right next to me. And she was like, so like, tell me about that, candy that's next to you. I was like, I haven't been able to stop thinking about it since I got in here. Like, I just see it there. I'm not touching it, but it's like in my periphery, like this weird, like
Interesting.
yeah, it was like a real mental obsession because I had been programming myself from 8 years old to try not to eat, things that are fatty or sugary or blah, 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 blah. And it became a real thing. So how would you describe that as far as like, you obviously found yourself, so what you said when you were 26, when it was at the worst, like what was your aha moment for realizing like this is an issue?
Well, I was using food for a source of control. And I'm going to tell you, there were kind of two different phases, and you touched on the first phase. And there is a herd mentality in the industry that I come from that is around dieting and eating very little calories. And, there that exists.
Yes.
I think it's duplicated in college with freshmen and sophomores. I mean, I think that herd mentality is a reality. So I took from that tips, and then I brought it all the way with me till I was, in my late 20s, where I was using food as a source of control because other parts of my personal life were spinning relationally. I was getting out of a really unhealthy relationship, and I was using food for my soothing. And a lot of the clients that I work with now use food to soothe in excess. And I was using food, I was underutilizing nutritional calories. I was underutilizing food as I should be for nutrients.
I think that's a good point. If we could pause there for a second. So you're basically saying that it's almost like the way that you were numbing out was to not eat at all.
That's right.
Would you say that's accurate? God, it's so important that we highlight that because that is the opposite side of it. Like I remember there being like a high for not eating and it being like, oh, this big celebratory thing, but it was still a form of numbing out. It was the opposite of that. And I think that's what happens all the time is like when we're on that diet, it's still numbing away by not eating. And like, oh my gosh, thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
I've been on both sides of it, as I've aged and I've gotten, once you're postnatal, I'm postnatal, 2 children. Once you get on the other side of it, then you can look at food, and my body changed naturally as it does. I looked at food from also a binge perspective, but then also a restriction perspective. And so I can relate to both sides of that spectrum deeply because I've been on both sides of it. And it's still the same. The reason I'm doing it is because I'm trying to fill a void.
I was just going to ask you, what do you think is at the source of both of them? Trying to fill a void.
Yes. And I'm a control freak. And that's a way I can control things.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So, and because what does it bring up thinking for you about not being in control?
So not being in control in my mind is letting my the exterior of my body not reflect the person that I am inside. The success that I have, the success that I've achieved, even from my own perspective, not even considering outside influence, my own personal expectation, ego, self, however you want to name it. When the outside of my body doesn't match my opinion of my level of success, that's when I feel out of control.
Got it. Yeah. And how do you know that? It's just a feeling?
It's a feeling. It's how I look at myself. It's how my exterior looks in the mirror. It's how my clothes fit. I move all the time. I'm an athlete, so it's not really performance based.
Mm.
Though, around my period when my hormones are not balanced, then I don't perform as well. But generally, it's just about my physical appearance in my own eyes.
Got it. Yeah. Makes total sense. Like I'm the one who has the last say. And like, does my external appearance outwardly show and match like the level of success that I feel like I have achieved or
Correct.
am or whatever in my life? Got it. And then when it doesn't, then the out of control feeling starts. And that's when there's the trying to fulfill the void.
Today,
Mm-hmm.
I'm much more aware of that.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah. Yeah, definitely, I'm sure.
So I can catch it, because I don't really think you ever get fully over. You may be fully recovered. You're not binging, you're not purging. But I don't think you ever escape those kind of neural pathways that have been created in your past from years and years of this practice.
Yeah.
So I just become aware of it, and I try to make the best next step for myself.
Yeah, I love that. And what are the tools that because I imagine that that's what you coach your clients like for, yeah, to manage when those feelings come up. Cause I agree with you. It's like certain things just like, yes, this is what happens when XYZ happens. Then we just get better at managing that when it comes up. So yeah, what are some of the things that you've learned?
So I too struggled with over exercise. So I don't think that this is a great suggestion for everybody. But for people who haven't suffered from any kind of disordered eating in their background, in their history, then a 20-minute walk or an hour-long, bout of exercise is an excellent way to increase endorphins, to decrease stress. And it's just generally improve mobility, these things. I don't have to say these things, but that is my first and foremost tactic. Now, the way that I do that today versus me 10, 20 years ago is that I make my walks soul walks versus exercise or a workout.
Yes. Yes. Please explain the difference. I'm sure people are starting to get it, but I'd love to hear you explain.
So a soul walk would be a slow paced, intentional movement with music that is inspiring, with podcasts that are uplifting, with any kind of positive audio. Sometimes there's just there's nothing in the ear, and it's just listening to nature if I'm on a hike. And it's not intended to raise the heart rate and be a cardio workout.
Yeah.
Versus when I walk 3 miles in 60 minutes and I'm working out.
Mm-hmm.
I can do both of those things separately, and they both have different purposes.
Oh my gosh, I love what you're saying. I've had so many awesome conversations about this. Like, it's all about the energy that's behind what it is. And I can't remember who I was just doing a podcast interview not that long ago, but talking about the different ways of health. Like, there's the feeding the soul health. Like, you're talking about these soul walks. Like, that's that indulgence almost, right? And then there's like the physical, like feeding the physical, and that may be the 3 miles in the 60 minutes. And it's like, that's also an integrity because it's feeding that aspect. Then there could also be like the social feeding, where it's like, we're at a party and there's some amazing buffalo chicken dip, and that's going to feed my soul, right? Like,
Right.
for the social aspect, right? And my belief is that when we actually honor the different cravings, no matter what they are, without the labels of like buffalo chicken dip is bad and, workouts are great and walking, a soul walk would be, a waste of time, whatever. Like, if we let all the labels go and we actually tune in and be like, what do I actually need right now? And answer that call, then that's how we end up healthy.
I believe it starts in the morning with a mindset practice. And I teach it, and I'll share with you what I teach my clients now.
Yeah.
They spend 5 to 10 minutes and they answer 4 simple questions. The first is, an I am statement, something that identifies them as a unique individual. The second piece is I will, and those are intention-based statements. They are often, if you've heard the acronym SMART, they're SMART goals, they're measurable, real goals. The third is just I'm grateful for, simple. And you study this, so you know how much a practice in gratefulness is beneficial to the joy and health of a person's body. And finally, a celebration statement. And that celebration statement in what I do, I'm looking to build self-efficacy for these folks in the behaviors and the patterns that I'm teaching. And so and I work with a lot of professionals who are type A, suffer from perfectionism, have these really strong associations with success. And if you have strong associations with success, then it's hard to see that you did a really good job. There's always room for improvement. Mm-hmm. And so the small celebrations compound day after day, and we just ask them to celebrate one thing from yesterday. And that compounds to this strong sense of self-efficacy or confidence in this vertical of their life. And I believe, Leslie, what you're saying is that when you are more mindfully living, all the way through your body, ground to ceiling, toes to the crown of your head, when you're really being self-aware, then you can identify when you're triggered to soothe with food versus when you're just at a birthday party having a birthday celebration.
Yes.
And you can recognize both of those environments and those situations, and then be able to make conscious decisions on whether I'm going to have champagne toast or if I'm just going to continue to celebrate with water, and that's okay.
Yes. Oh my God. Absolutely. Exactly. Of just like, because of doing this work, I am 100% aware if something is like, it's like, I know it's like, oh no, this is like the feeling of anger or sadness. This is whatever. And it's like, okay, what is going to support that? It's not eating. Eating used to work. And then with my clients, it's like, have you started to realize that like food is actually not soothing you the way that it used to? And it's like, yeah. And I say, like, consider that it's your body asking you to come up with a better way, right? It's like your body's catching on to the fact that like, that's not what you need. You're still sad after that candy bar, or you're still feeling really whatever after the candy bar. So it's just like, okay, when I feel anger, like frustration, it's like, go for a walk. Like, it's just like, that is how automatic it is. I don't even have to think about it. It's just like feeling, go. Where before it was feeling, always the cabinet, like any feeling cabinet to eat. And now there's like a vast array. But the first thing I had to do was take away the labels of like, this is bad, this is good. Because when I was so in that mental construct, the only thing I could think about was the food. It was like I was trying so hard to restrict myself and not have it all day that the second that I had stress, that was a beeline, because it's like I was priming my subconscious to basically be like, don't eat the sugar, don't eat the sugar, don't eat the sugar. And then like first thing that I do when I can't manage whatever's happening in my life, control, go right for the sugar. So it's like, take the labels off. You can have some sugar, go for that. Realize that you feel bad after it, from a place of non-judgment. And then like, what would actually support you in feeling better today, Leslie? And then we get to have a lifestyle where it's like, yes. And that difference of like, I'm just at a birthday party and I'm just having the cake right now. But you can tell when it's like, I'm like hiding it. I'm like eating a lot of it. It's like, no, this is something else, like these are the little clues you need to pick up. It's not wrong. It's not bad. It's not shameful. These are things that we just need to become aware of and practice over time. Amazing. Perfect. So so then you hit that, your own personal rock bottom. And then how did you dig your way out? Did you go to therapy? Like, what did you have to do? Yeah. Right. Yeah. Tell us about that.
I think we should let the stigma go. I think it's on its way out the door, but like, let's hire people who know what they're doing to help us, like just
Yes.
generally.
Can we? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
So years and still today, I'm not currently connected with a therapist right now, but that is, I mean, literally I'm looking at my personal goal list right now, which is find a therapist.
Nice.
Uh,
Absolutely.
I relied on, and I was relying on this therapist for not only help with my, it wasn't an ED therapist. It was actually just someone who could help me with my entire personal life. And through that process, I was able to see, my illness. I also met someone who was also in a pretty sticky place at the time, and we were very much accountability partners to each other, and that was helpful as well to get out of it. I feel like when you're getting out of a relationship that is, spinning out of control, uh, it is good to obviously hire someone that you trust, and then to be open to share your story with other people so
Yes.
that they can feel like they're not alone in this. And then that produces some accountability there because they will continue to check on you if they love you and care for you.
100%. Yep. I've been saying it all day. It's just like the 5 people that you hang out with the most is who you become, and asking for help, and making those changes. Something else that you mentioned that we just talked about in my interview that I just did with Jay Williams was the daily little wins and successes, right? Of like really tracking, and like
Yes.
how on top of that, like we're really creating who we are for ourselves, right? Like you said, with the morning journaling of the I am statement,
That's right.
right? Of like, I am this, but then it's like, I remember I had a coach and I would, come to her and I'd be saying to her, like, this is what I'm, as a business coach, but she was very spiritual or whatever. And she gave me the homework of doing a daily success journal. And, because she was
Oh.
mirroring back to me, like, but it wasn't getting in there. And like having to take full responsibility for the fact that like whatever I am believing is like, because I'm not like, she can tell me that all day, but what's really going to make the difference. So as a result of me doing the daily success journal, I got to see like, I'm traveling around the world. I have my laptop business dream life. Like I left nursing, I started a business. Like I couldn't see myself that way before. All I kept seeing myself was like the feelings I was feeling and like still struggling, still striving, still failing, which was still giving me the same results. But the difference was I couldn't enjoy any of it, nor be present to
Mm.
like who I am. And therefore I'm depriving the world of what they can be because I'm seeing myself as broken when other people are seeing me as great. And I just keep needing to ask other people for help. When in reality, it's like, if I just change the way I'm thinking about myself and work on my emotional mastery, like I get to be that for people. Oh my, it's,
I I think it's a blessing that you could get there. I think
mm,
that people getting there without support and without guidance is almost impossible. You
yeah,
have to find someone who can lead you to
yes,
that place. And then once you get there, then it flourishes into your version of that existence, that energy, that life that you want to lead.
100%. And as a leader, always being present to like, what is that next thing for me? Like you said, where is that therapist? Like we're always doing our work because we're aware there's always more things to uncover. There's always that next version. But it's again coming from that different space. Like Lane was the high achieving performer in the past, dancer. She's
Yeah.
still a high performer today, but the energy around it has changed.
That's
Would you
right.
say?
Yeah, I would say. I would say.
Yeah,
I'd say,
yeah,
and I still really thrive on being connected to people and having that reciprocation of energy, just
yes.
sharing it. I mean, that still exists very much for me. So what I took from performing in front of 80,000 people, and receiving that energy back, I now have been able to use that and then push it out to others and then receive it on a different level, a smaller group of people, of course,
Mhm.
but to exchange the energy, much like we are today. And it feels so good, doesn't it?
Yes.
Just is a healthier place for me.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, recently got it clarified in my mind of, because it's, I work with business professionals, as I know you do as well.
That's right.
And how it's like, obviously we can't, like, we've gotten to where we are today and been very successful, but sometimes it's built off this foundation of, I'm broken, I'm damaged, what's wrong with me, right? Like, you were born with your heart condition, so that got
Yep.
in there. Like, I was called a liar as a little kid, so that got in there. Like, I'm a
Yep.
bad person, like living my life in this place of like, don't find out, you know what I mean? Like, subconsciously, which gives us these things. We all have these things, and that changes the energy that we bring to the table versus working on those different things. So it's like, but how do we, it's like, but I like the fact that I got to being how successful I am today. Like, so why does it have to be a problem or whatever? And what somebody kind of, I forget where I got this from, but of like, if you were not raised in the foundation of unconditional love, like, what would be different? Like, love my parents, no blame or anything, but like, what would have been different if, when my mom saw that my body was getting to be a little bit bigger than my sister's, if she had said, like, let's pay attention to, like, what does Leslie love to do? Like, what, like, maybe we can like cook together on Tuesdays, and like, I can like just like enjoy foods with her, and like what if we, you know what I mean? Like, what if that was the approach of like this, unconditional love, versus now you have a slower metabolism than your sisters. And so here's what fat looks like. Here's what calorie looks like. You can only have 2 cookies at night. You might see them having 4, but you can have 2, right? Like, which is already like, I'm different, right? And I need to be careful, and it's just like, and so that's the foundation. So saying that, like, when you are those primary years of life, 0 to 10, like growing up in that foundation and beautiful soil of like richness and unconditional love and forgiveness and whatever, like, then you can implement after that, like, okay, cool. Like, now when you are going towards and hitting goals, like, how much more gracefully you'll be able to do that, because you'll be able to like forgive yourself if you don't hit the goal, or like love yourself or be
Yeah.
compassionate, like just easily be like, oh, let me just make a tweak and keep going, right? That growth mindset that everybody talks about and we practice, but it's like, right, but we need to kind of go back, and we need to, in order, I talk about how there's 2 different types of success. There's the first type where it's like Robin Williams, for example, where it's like obviously super successful at his trade, but ended up, obviously he had a drug problem and overdose and whatever, probably to deal with the stress, like
That's
Michael
right.
Jackson, I don't know, like these celebrities that like go down, Forever 27 people, right? It's like, okay, there's that kind, like crash and burn hard, like they still made a big difference on the planet, but like at what cost to their health and
That's
their
right.
life? The second type of success being, like, I always use Meryl Streep as like, she's like this like beautiful, expansive, robust, like her body is like a little bit bigger, and like, but she just emanates this, and she still is like a rock star at her craft, and like, but the difference she gets to make on the planet in this like well-rounded, beautiful way, it's like a different feeling. And so it's like, yes, I still want you to be successful, but let's put you in that second Meryl Streep category,
That's
so
right.
you can actually like live and stand the test of time, and not only have it be about you and your success, but like the impact you got to make by raising your vibration and expanding yourself out.
I love that you said that. And I also want to revisit because, I said my age, I'm in my early 40s. And I know that a lot of people that I work with around this age were raised with parents that didn't fully know how to address weight or social
Yeah.
emotional education, giving words around emotions that outside of happy, sad, mad, glad. So, and I think that what we can do together is help teach people our age to change that history and change that trajectory for their own children, so that we can be putting words around and strategies around conversations. I mean, if a child is obese, it needs to be addressed, right? For
Yes.
sure.
Yep.
But the way that we address it
Yes.
can be so much easier and softer and less damaging
Yes.
for the adult who will come to be, in 20 years.
I'm so
And
glad you brought that up. Yep. Just like so every single client that I sign up has a child or a grandchild, and they are aware of like, if I don't fix this within myself, if I
Yes.
don't learn how to be compassionate with myself around food, body, and weight, like I know they're going to have the same thing because my mom had the same thing. And it's like, we're really talking about changing the entire course of your family history by way of you're doing this work, which I think it's just a really admirable way to live your life. And to me, I was just saying, like, I think service is what makes us the happiest. Like, if I know that what I'm doing is not just going to help me, but it's going to help, recently I just hired and made a very large investment in a matchmaker, right? Still working on
Okay,
that aspect of my
good.
life. And it's like part of my decision making, though, is like, I know that some of my clients are still out there working on that aspect. And like I ran a retreat for my clients in Malibu, and one of my clients said, like, Leslie, you should be a matchmaker. And I was like, well, first I gotta master that aspect of my life first. And so it was like, all these little pings or whatever. I'm like, all right, I'm not just doing this for me, and it's like, here we go. Let's see what happens. It's about the person I become along the way. Maybe they'll find a match and maybe they won't or whatever, but I'm going to learn a lot and it's going to trickle down and keep making an impact. So just really admire the leaders, and the parents that really know that it's that ripple effect for sure, as you are doing as well with your two boys. One day I'll know what that's like.
Trying to model it. I mean, I think the best way to do it is to model it. I think that is the best way that we can teach our babies is by modeling the behavior that we want them to have.
Yes.
And giving them vocabulary to be able to express their feelings and emotions and know that it's safe. I have two boys and they know that it's safe to talk about how they feel in our house.
I love that. I love that. And I would even take it a step further of like, not only model it, but make sure you actually automatically believe that and are doing that yourself.
Yes.
Because kids are so perceptive. And like, my mom she didn't talk about food, body, and weight that much, but just like there's the energy behind it, like, and just like certain ways that she would like make a comment like that, all those automatic things can't be hidden. And it's like, so you gotta be like, it's because I think people can fall into a perfectionistic mentality where they're like, I've had people talk to me and they're like, I never talk about this with my girls because I don't want it to affect them. And I'm like, newsflash, it is affecting them. Like they know. And they always say, like, I know they know. I really do. Like, because they're suffering with XYZ with their weight. And they're like, but I've never talked about it. Doesn't matter. It's incomplete in your energy. And it just keeps going. Oh my gosh. Yes. Can we please educate all the parents? Like, it's just a trickle down effect. Awesome. And what would you say? I guess I'm kind of like being sneaky and asking. I'll just say it because of the last conversation that I had, Lane, we were talking about how, like, at the end of the day, it's just love that like heals it all. Like, of actually just like, because I was talking to a client, we did like a testimonial podcast earlier, and I was asking her about the first conversation we had with each other. And I was like, when I discover what is like that person's pattern and what really is going on with them, like, it's like, oh, wow, like she really understands my pattern. Of course, I'm going to do her program. And like, I was kind of saying that, like, what was that experience? Like, she was like, Leslie, you were the first person who I felt was actually listening to me. Like, I felt you actually understood that you were listening to me. And she said, and if someone could be that present with me on the first conversation I'm having with them, like, of course I need to have more of that. And just really getting like, what's missing is that beautiful space of just being seen and heard and not judged and appreciated and cared for and loved. Would you say like, is that
this is it? I mean, people say, how do your clients get such massive results? And the reason they get the results that they do is because we are connected. We are bound together. Like, we have to like each other before we even start working together. We have to trust each other. And it is a relationship.
Yes.
It is, where we see each other and we care for each other. I mean, I don't need them to care for me the same way that I care for them, but I need them to respect and answer me and communicate with me. And they need me to know what's going on with them.
Yeah.
And it's love and it's energy and it's relationship. And that's the secret sauce. It really is.
Oh my God. Yay. Thank you for saying it. Thanks for practicing like that. Yeah. And so, and then to kind of fast forward, so you did actually experience cardiac arrest at one point on your path. Do you mind sharing about that?
January 19th. I took my dance and I shifted it into fitness instruction and being group fitness and doing all, training. And I was teaching a fitness class January 19th this year. During COVID, the gyms had reopened. I was back to teaching. We were masked most of the time, except during the action part of the class. And I was on stage. I was at the last 75%, last quarter of class, if you will. And I started feeling a panic attack come on. And I've suffered from anxiety for many years, and I know what that feels like. And I sat everybody down. I sat myself down, cross-legged. It was a yoga sculpting class in a heated room. Mm. And I couldn't breathe through my panic attack. I couldn't lower my heart rate. So
when normally you could have in the past from going through it, you knew how to take care of it, and it wasn't happening this time. Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Got it.
And God had placed another instructor in the classroom. It was actually my friend. And I asked her to come onto the stage, and she finished the class, and I went outside. And when I was outside, a member of the gym came with me to support me. And I was just, breathing through it, trying to get it under control. And I finally said to her, I think I need help. I had dialed my husband at the time, and he's a firefighter, and he was, legs up the wall, and you're fine. And what's your heart rate say on your monitor? And it was very sporadic. Well, we later found out that I was in ventricular tachycardia, which means the chambers of my heart weren't pumping together.
For the people that don't know, VTAC is bad. Like me being a nurse, that's real. Yep.
So EM for 30 minutes, I was at 280 beats per minute, which, and this from your medical training, that after a minute, if you don't have blood perfusing through your body and into your brain, that you lose brain function.
That's right.
But I didn't, probably because of the condition of my body, and probably because I was coming out of a workout that had my blood flowing so quickly.
Makes sense. Yeah.
But all the doctors and all the nurses were like, that's not normal. And it's especially not normal that it happened for 30 minutes. So I feel quite purposeful still on this earth today. I feel like there's no other reason that I'm here than to help people and to serve my family and to serve the people that I love. But what ended up happening is they shocked me twice. They cut my beautiful Lululemon bra that I'll never get over off.
I love that.
It's not, they don't make it still. They don't make it. I can't get another one.
Man, I hear you. Oh, I love that. Yes.
I had a sweet friend send me a gift card for Lulu. Like, here you go. Here, go get yourself something. It's very sweet.
I had to say, so there was one time I got into a really bad car accident. It was like a snowy day, and it was on a highway, and we like flipped 3 times in this Jeep or whatever. We were okay. Like, thank God everybody walked out of it. But because everyone was okay, it's like whatever my body latched on to the fact that I lost my iPod with all my music. And it was just like, people would be like, tell me how you're coping with the car accident. And it was like, my reality was, I'm really just sad that I lost all my music. Like, I'm traumatized by that. I know I could have just lost my life. So when you were talking about the Lululemon bra, like, I understand, as silly as it sounds. Like, that's hilarious. And I get it. Okay. Got it. So they did that. They shocked you twice.
Shocked me twice, took me to the hospital. I stayed there for 4 days. They ran all the tests, electrophysiology. So there's a difference between a heart attack and cardiac arrest. A heart attack is, you hear it often relates to arteries and blocked arteries and cholesterol, and that's what causes heart attacks. And then there's cardiac arrest, which is electrical currents not meeting, which is what happened with me. And so they did electrophysiology mapping to discover what the issue was, repair the issue. And ultimately, they put in my chest, you can see the scar right there, they put a mini ICD. And so if that ever happens again, when I'm flying through the trees in Costa Rica or surfing in Mexico, whatever, if it happens again, this device will shock me
Yes.
and save me. Thank
Isn't
you,
that
science.
Exactly. Isn't that unbelievable that we can do that? Like for my, it was 9 months that I was working in the surgical and neuro ICU, and it was not the right fit for me. I did fine, but like it was too much. But the thing that I walk away with is like, I can't believe what human beings have figured out how to do. Like every single human coming into that unit is dead essentially. Like, and we just know what to do to make them be back alive again. And it's unreal. And the nurses who work in these ICUs and everybody, I mean, the surgeons, it's a freaking miracle. It's like, I can't even handle technology, science, and these human beings that are doing it every day. It's extraordinary. And obviously no one's going to understand that better than you at this point, but like, oh my God, the fact that they were able to find where the electricity wasn't firing off in the heart, place something in there, have a little defibrillator installed into your body. So has that changed your life, knowing that like you have this safety mechanism? Like now that I'm thinking about that, do you feel safer now?
So it's interesting that I do, but a lot of people find me online and want to talk about this part of my life. And I want to be a resource for them. I want them to feel loved and supported. And a lot of the time, they're not as comfortable with it as I am. Now, I have a very strong faith. As a matter of fact, I believe that the reason that we have I believe that God made these brilliant people to be able to make these medicines. And I say this a lot with anti-anxiety, antidepressive drugs. Like we have these drugs to use because God made a really smart person who created it. So like, let's use it.
Yep.
Today, I would say, most of the people coming in are coming from a fear-based state, and they just want me to help them work through it because they see me online doing the fitness stuff that I do now and living a very vast life.
Right.
I would say, Leslie, I'm clearly supposed to be here. Mm-hmm. That I know because of January 19th. And I think it's almost like a rebirth.
Yeah.
Into the next phase, chapter half of the book of me being able to live fuller. So I'm not afraid. I feel like it's security.
Oh my God, it's amazing. And I've heard so many stories of people who have had near-death experiences or death experiences. They have like near-death experience support groups because like nobody understands what that feels like to like be gone and come back again, essentially. And it's like, yeah, you're going to view life in a completely different lens after something like that happens. There's no way. And no one's going to understand that, unless somebody else has gone through that themselves.
I would tell you, I think the mindset and the soul work that is evident in my life and practiced in my life daily is part of the reason why I don't live in fear. Because I'm in a habit of really building in and being conscious and aware of my body at all times, that I can safely, there's still times that I had anxiety around working out after it happened. It did make me afraid for a little bit of time. And I think that's trauma related, but then also just readjusting.
Yes.
But today and now in this moment, in this way that I'm living now, I believe that my soul work and my mindset work helps me to live bigger and not in fear.
Yeah, absolutely. And even it's just like anything, when people first get off diet mentality and they go into like, okay, like there's no rules, like let's feel into what happens when you just like trust yourself and your own body's wisdom and all of that kind of stuff. Like it feels really bad and scary at first, so like of course anything new that you're going to do like that, it's going to have that like trepidation, but over time, this is what we tell our clients is like, it will get easier. It'll feel automatic. It'll become part of your normal way of living your life, and just hang in there. And I'm so happy that you're in that space of just feeling that security and got that new life. And thank you for just using your experiences to make a difference with the life that you're living. It's really amazing. Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, for anyone who resonates with your story, how can they find you, Lane?
I would love to connect with them on Instagram or on Facebook, so they can find me. And my name is spelled Layne, Lane Bruner. And they can find me at either of those places and send me DMs. It's me answering. You know, I have people who help me out with social media, but if you're wanting to connect, I will be the person to be responding for sure.
Awesome. Great. And that's Lane Bruner. We'll make sure that we have her name in the show notes.
Thank
and
you.
As always, if you guys are watching live on Facebook, you can send me a message directly on Facebook. Myself or my team will get back to you soon. And if you're listening on the podcast, you'll hear that prompt for how you can get our free training. So Lane, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for the work that you're doing. I'm so happy that we had you on.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.